All right. Well, welcome to the Clark Board of Ed Candidates Night. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We really appreciate you taking your time to come out. When I heard we were up against the first game of the series, I panicked, but then I was hoping that maybe some people can use their DVRs and be with us anyway. My name is Elizabeth Klee. I'm co-owner of Tap into Clark. This is Susan. Come on up here, Susan. Take a wave. Susan Bonnell, this is my partner. We're really excited tonight to be hosting this Candidates Night and provide you with the opportunity to hear personally from the candidates their views on various questions that were submitted by the Clark population. I'd like to take a second to just thank the Clark Board of Education, Superintendent Knops, and Rick Delmonico for helping us get this all set up, everyone cooperating with us and really giving us a great place to host the event. I'd like to take a second to introduce the candidates, if you don't already know them, but I'm sure you do. Our first is Michael Bonacorso Jr., and next to him is Carmen Bricado. Carmen is an incumbent currently on the Board of Ed now. Laura Calaguire is next, also an incumbent on the Board of Ed now. And last but certainly not least, Steve Donkersloot on the end. Okay, I just would like to say a word about the questions that are going to be asked tonight. We asked through our website for people to submit questions, and at first we were nervous because we weren't getting any, and we thought, oh my God, what are we going to do? Then all of a sudden the onslaught came. It's sort of that everyone waited till the last minute. We had way more questions than we could possibly ask this evening. So unless you want to stay till midnight, nothing else to do, right? So we picked what we thought were probably the most central things that people would want. And I have to say, a lot of the questions had common themes, so we sort of took a piece from this one because it was similar to that one and they went together. We did the very best we could, but I'm just saying this because I'm sure that not every question that you might have, you yourself might have submitted may not be heard tonight. So we're really grateful for the wonderful response, but we want to keep to the hour and a half that we promised. We have tonight with us Marlene Sincaglia from the League of Women Voters. So although we said we would sponsor it, they're being wonderful enough to help us moderate it. That's her expertise. We're going to let her do that, and she's going to explain to you how the actual event will work. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. The evening is separated into three parts. The first part deals with opening statements. We drew ahead of time to see who was going to be giving the first opening statement, etc. The opening statements are 2 minutes in length. At the end of 1:30, you will see, candidates, you will see a yellow card being held up saying 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds left. At the end of the 2 minutes, you will see a red card being held up, and that is to stop. You are entitled to finish out your thought, but please do not go beyond that point. Okay? And after everybody finishes answering, doing the statements, we'll be moving into the second part of the program. So, making the first opening statement, we have Mr. Donkersloot.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and Tap into Clark for hosting this event. I want to start off a little about me and why I'm running. My name is Steve Donkersloot, and I'm running for the Board of Education. I'm 37 years old, and I've been working for a major information technology firm for the last 15 years. I am married to Kathy, who's a preschool teacher in Elizabeth, and have 3 children enrolled in the Valley Road School. Sarah, who is 5, is in kindergarten. Alyssa, who is 6, is in the 1st grade, and Caitlin is in the 3rd grade. Previous to Valley Road School, Alyssa was enrolled in the Clark preschool. Kathy and I have lived in Clark for approximately 12 years. And we moved to this town for the great school systems and the small hometown feeling that it had then. With 3 young children, I have a long vested interest in contributing to this board. I'm committed to helping this town keep our education to the highest level. We need to evaluate and expand our schools, our space, and our infrastructure. We need to consider our current space issues and forecast the growth. We need to leverage our resources and the upgrades and utilize what is at our disposal of the district. Working with the Board of Education, I would also like to strengthen our special services program. We need desperate oversight of a program that defines the education our kids will get. All these changes will need to be done with total fiscal responsibility and keeping taxpayers in mind. The BOE needs to remain nonpartisan to city politics and keep the education of the students and the needs of the district at the top of the list. Let's make Clark Board of Education the best it could be. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Calaguire.
Thank you to the TAP, and thank you to the Women League of Voters for sponsoring this night this evening. My name is Laura Calaguire. I am running for my 4th term on the Board of Education. My husband, John, and I have lived in Clark for 19 years. We have 3 children who have all gone through the Clark Public Schools. My daughter, Ashley, is currently employed by the Bayonne Board of Education as a secondary math teacher. My son, John, is a junior at the College of New Jersey, and Katie is a freshman at Montclair State University. Having just graduated the last of my 3 children from ALJ in June, this makes me no longer a parent of a child in the schools. However, it allows me to view things from a different angle, one which may provide valuable insights to us as a board in the decision-making process. I have now had 3 children move on to post-secondary schools and universities, at which times I am able to just see how well our schools have done in preparing the students for college and careers. As our students move on to these institutions, we're able to see them intermingle with students coming from other high schools. Additionally, having my oldest daughter and her husband both secondary educators, I have a true understanding and respect for the job that our teachers are doing each and every day in the classrooms. For 13 years, I have had at least 1 child in the Clark School District. Throughout this time, I was an active member of the PTAs, school dance committees, and many other volunteer parental organizations. Over the 9 years of tenure on the Board of Education, I have served on various committees within the district. Additionally, for the past 6 years, I've had the pleasure of serving on the Union County School Boards Association, with 2 years serving as the vice president. This has been proven over the past, While I believe that all of the above experience qualify me for this position, I must say that the most important attribute I bring to the table is that I truly do care about the children of Clark. I'm committed to working hard for the children and providing the best education while being fiscally responsible to our taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Bonacorso.
Thank you for everyone who made this night possible. My name is Michael Bonacorso. I am a product of our excellent school district and community. I consider myself a Clark lifer, having been born and raised in town. I graduated Dartmouth College, an Ivy League school in New Hampshire. Professionally, I am a financial advisor at the Wealth Management Group. My company's home office has been in town for well over a decade. A leader's values are interpreted through his or her vision. My vision for our district is categorized in 3 core areas. The 3 areas of focus are fiscal responsibility and prudence, each student's individual growth and attainment of his or her goals, and a shared appreciation for the community that makes our district phenomenal. Below, I will expand further on how each component of our vision can be enhanced and facilitated. A legacy of securing resources and providing continuous advantages for our students is important. For the last decade, my father has served as the Finance Committee Chair on the Clark Board of Education. He developed a financial strategy using prudent accounting measures. His actions had an immediate positive impact. Our ability to provide more resources at no further cost to the district is almost never rivaled by other districts in our county. Regarding tax increases and current tax burdens, our district ranked the best in all of Union County and amongst the best in the state. His legacy helped turn a financially insolvent district into one that is not only affordable, but has the most varsity sports available of any school in Union County. A few benefits provided at no or minimal cost to the district are the following: the district's remodeling of the high school, the additional turf field, the additional full-day kindergarten program. Recently, both Valley Road and Henley schools have been given freshly resurfaced driveways. Constant increases in test scores on state testing, PSAT, SAT, and AP tests are essential in keeping our students competitive. A focus on college financing, academic scholarship opportunities, and athletic scholarships are a must. The athletic director, coaches, and teachers must provide support early in a student's career, advising the student and his or her parents of the hurdles ahead. As a board, we must work alongside teachers and administrators, creating an open dialogue that will be beneficial to our strategic success.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. And Mr. Brocato.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and Tap into Clark for hosting this candidate night and to welcome everyone. I'd like to start out giving you a little background on myself. My wife Christine and I have been a resident of Clark for more than 19 years. We have two wonderful children, Carmen Jr., who is a junior at Rowan University, and Michelle, who graduated from ALJ last year and is a freshman at Montclair State University. My wife Christine is a paraprofessional in the Westfield School District, and I am a retired police lieutenant from the Westfield Police Department. I'm also a certified residential real estate appraiser and have a real estate appraisal company located here in Clark for about 20 years. Next, I would like to give you some history about my tenure on the school board. I was elected in 2005 when I felt the school district in this community needed dire help. We had a community where elementary schools where one was good and the other one was looked down upon. We had an average middle school and we had a high school that was 20 years behind the times. We had a superintendent who did not believe in the future of technology, therefore technology was non-existent. We had double-digit taxes while there was cutting programs, sports, staff, and the schools were crumbling. At the beginning, I had the opportunity to join the Finance Committee, which I am still a member of today. We felt strongly that 3 tax points was the most we were going to increase taxes. With a strong opposition from the school administration, they were forced only to raise taxes 3 points and make the district work. We felt it could be accomplished, and as you can see from our past accomplishments, it has. Since that time, we've added full-day kindergarten, preschool, with an ABA program, before and after care, refurbished the high school, added PSAT testing for every student from grades 9 to 11, which we pay for, increased AP courses from the low teens to 20, paying for the AP testing. We've added college courses taught by college professors so students can obtain college credits. We added block instruction, which helped increase our math and language scores. We added smart boards to more than 90% of the classrooms, which we plan on increasing to 100%. And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I wrote it
Now
all.
we move to the second portion of the evening, and that is responses to the questions. The first question, and Mr. Bonacorso, you'll be the first person to answer this question. Question states, space limitations are an issue in Clark School District schools. Library, art, and music are on carts. Even core subjects such as science have teachers traveling from room to room. Since the St. Agnes space is no longer an option, what is your vision for solving the instructional space limitations? You have 90 seconds in which to give the response, or up to 90 seconds for the response. Again, at the end of a minute, you will see the yellow card, and then at the end of 90 seconds, you will see the red card. Please just complete your thought.
Resources are definitely of the utmost importance to the students and the district in order for them to be successful. To slight any program would be a huge constraint on our district and on the students. However, I think there must be prudence, and when I speak of prudence, I think we must look at debt. So a lot of situations we're seeing there's different demographics. I think talking with a teacher of mine in high school, now the head of curriculum, Mr. Grande, he's a perfect example. He's a mentor of mine. We recently sat down and we were talking about certain curriculum issues in the district. And, this was a topic that came up. And I think it's something that we have to address. However, I think the way we go about it is very important. And when we go about it, I think we must understand of how much expansion room is exactly necessary so we have a good accounting for each dollar for dollar we're going into. And if the issues, just because, you say art on a cart or science on a cart, I think some of the best memories I have are elementary school when the science teacher would come in bringing her cart of fun things and, we would do science for an hour. So would the elementary school need a whole new science lab? No, that wouldn't be prudent. But if that means our theater programs and our opportunity to put students into colleges on scholarships or someday make the big screen be limited, then yes, we must expand.
Thank you. Mr. Brocato.
We were very disappointed with the St. Agnes. We heard when the residents came forward and expressed their concerns about the overcrowding in our schools and the lack of classrooms. That's why we went after St. Agnes. Unfortunately, in my opinion, not any fault of our Board of Education, St. Agnes didn't work out. At the present time, we hired a company to do a demographic study to see how much space we're going to need in the future. We've hired an architect to give us some ideas of how to expand, whether we want to add on to our schools or build a separate building. You know, I have to apologize that a lot of people came up to us during the St. Agnes, questioned of what was going on, what was happening, and unfortunately, we had to keep silent because that was just the rules, and we were told we were not allowed to discuss it. So we were a little disappointed when that fell through, but as a board, we are looking forward to getting the architect information and seeing how we can expand, because we know we need to expand in this township. Thank you.
Mrs. Calaguire.
Thank you. This has been a major concern of the Board of Education, especially over the past few years when we've seen the numbers increasing in our elementary schools. We are in the process of doing a demographic study to see where we are right now and where we're going to be in 5 years. Once we receive that study, then we can decide whether or not it's prudent to build a new building or add on to one of our existing buildings, or possibly just maybe redistrict. We don't know where we're going to be or what we're going to need, but it is very important to all of us that the students all have an art classroom, a music classroom, computer classroom, but we also want to keep the class sizes small. So the fix that we did for right now with the libraries is only a temporary fix, just something so that we can keep our class sizes small while keeping our full-day kindergarten program, which we believe is very beneficial to all of the students. Starting at the lower level makes it much better for when they get to the high school. And so what we've decided is we're going to make this one of our goals for the upcoming year, and something that we as a board are going to work on with our central office administration, an architect, and a demographic study to see what's going to fit the district the best and the taxpayers by being fiscally responsible.
Thank you. Mr. Donkersloot.
I'm glad to hear that a demographic study and an architect have been hired. While the St. Agnes School lease was a good idea in theory, there was no exit strategy for that. I do agree our schools need to be expanded. I've heard there's been talk about expanding CUMF to include the 5th grade to alleviate the two elementary schools. Time will tell on what we can do, but keeping taxes in check and not going overboard with over-expanding our schools is key. I do believe, though, that our children need the art room, the music room, and the library back. The children were very disappointed this year to find out they couldn't take books out. So we need to get back to what school used to be, and kids need to want to go to school and attend these things. So I do believe we need to bring these things back and get rid of the carts where we can.
Thank you. Next question. What kind of relationship should a district and/or the board have with the total community, with its parents and families? And Mr. Brocato, you go first.
The relationship our district and the Board of Education should have with its community and parents is ultimately important. I think 10 years ago when I was elected to the board, there really wasn't any communication with the community. Community had no idea what was going on. There were no press releases. There was a lot of angry people out in the community. I think in the past 10 years, I think our communication has grown greatly. I think our press releases have grown greatly. I feel our relationship with the community is excellent. And we'll continue, myself will continue to be available to the community anytime they have problems. Just call me up like they've done in the past, and I'm always open to being community help. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Donkersloot.
I believe the board needs transparency to the public. With today's technology, with Facebook and Twitter and websites, there's no reason why the public should not be updated on what's going on in the district. We do have some systems in place. The Honeywell works well for some things. Some of our schools have Facebook. And I think the Board of Ed needs to do a better job at actually communicating to the concerns of parents and answering their concerns. Being a member of the Valley Road School, PTA, I'm there, I'm on the ground, I hear what people are saying. Being on the softball field with my daughters, I hear what people are saying, and we need this. We need people that are in the community, linked to the community, and communicate back to them. So with the technology that we have, there's no reason why constant updates can't be posted on a Facebook page. Maybe Twitter is going a little too far, but Facebook is something that everybody has and can give updates regularly.
Thank you. Mrs. Calaguire.
Prior to coming on the board, our board meetings were not publicized. We started to have them live, broadcasted live out of the out of the Clark Court, so that the public can, if you can't be at a meeting, you can view it and you can see what's going on and be part of it. We've also had the website, and we try to keep that updated so that community can know, all the important things that are going on and all the important announcements. In addition to that, I think we have an extremely close relationship with the police department. I think that the police are constantly in the building and visible, and they're here to help with things with the kids. One of the things that they do at the elementary schools is our DARE program. The police department has worked along with our central administration in bringing programs to the school to educate the parents on some of the concerns that are facing the community. So we do have an excellent working relationship between the police department and the schools. We also have an excellent shared service relationship with the town, and that's one of the ways that we were able to get the Valley Road access road done, the turf field, and other projects that otherwise we would have had to take in funds out of the school budget and out of the classroom to do. So our shared service relationship works, and I can't go without saying, and I don't want to forget anyone, but L'Oreal and Columbia Bank, they're two communities, two parts of our community that have contributed so much money, that have given us science labs, they've given us scoreboards, countless things that have saved money and kept money in the classrooms. So that's examples of the community working with the schools.
Thank you. Mr. Bonacorso.
First, I'll speak on the technology standpoint. I would not support a Facebook or a Twitter page, mainly just because a lot of these companies come along and they start up and then they collapse. So I think something technological is important. I think it's always changing, but similar to Tap Into, which filled the void, I think it's got to be something that's proprietary to Clark and something that we can make our own and that's accessible to many people. That being said, even though we live in a technological world and a lot of people here have younger kids, there is a certain gap, I believe, when you're talking about the community. I guess I don't want to call it an ignorance, but perhaps a technological void, if you will, with an older generation, and that being expected. I think that's something that we have to address so their voices can also be heard, especially on tax issues, expansion, and the impact that has on the community. As far as the school district working with other branches of government, I think I've seen nothing better. I know one of the biggest thrills to my grade, and a lot of the athletes, me not being one of them though, was the turf field, and that was something that resounded with everyone, and that was a huge donation from the town. And if you're talking shared service, I think our board, and especially if I'm sitting on the finance committee, we have to be in touch with the heartbeat of what's going on in the state, what other districts are doing, and how we stay competitive and ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 3. Discuss the impact of standardized testing on our students, especially with the implementation of the technology-centric park testing in 2015. And Mr. Dunkersloot, you get to answer this one first.
My oldest daughter, being 8, this is going to be our first year that we're taking standardized tests. But I can tell you that at such a young age, these kids almost fear going to school to take some of these tests. While I'm not saying they're not needed, we need to get back to some of the core education principles that we need to teach our kids. Now, for the park being totally using computers and technology, we need to make sure our children are actually taught how to use this technology. Yes, there's kids that can use iPads and iPhones and stuff like that, but there are some less fortunate that don't have these devices and computers at their disposal. So we need to make sure that our children are taught these technology devices so they can actually pass these tests. The older children, the older students, yes, standardized tests should be required, but I think we need to get back to our core educational principles.
Thank you. Mr. Bonacorso.
I think the use of technology in the classroom is something that's great. And I talked with a concerned citizen today about this, and they were talking about, the way he brought up was solar panels on top of the school and keeping a technological competitiveness in the classroom. And I think the cool thing about technology is this, and we all could understand this with our cell phones. Once technology comes out, the newest piece, the newest issue is always the most expensive and usually the most inefficient. I think to always be on the cusp is not the smartest point, but to be maybe the second or third there is where you're really going to find the financial prudence. Other districts could see if it works, if it doesn't work, and then staying on top. And if it is something that we find that's extremely necessary, our curriculum people say it, our teachers are saying it, and we can test it out before going full-fledged into it and taking in a bunch of costs for no growth and perhaps even hindering our progress, I don't think that's a smart idea.
Thank you. Mr. Brocato.
Unfortunately, standard testing is mandated, and I think that it's something we need to accept, and we need to support our teachers as a board and the parents. Personally, I think that it causes instructions to be taught towards the test, and most of us are older, and we know what it was like when we went to school, and you were taught the way the teacher wanted to teach and the way she thought it was best, but now we seem to be teaching towards the test. Unfortunately, that's the way it looks like the future is given us, and as a board, we just need to support the teachers and the parents until our government decides there's something better. Thank you.
Okay. And Mrs. Calaguire.
Again, unfortunately, this is the way of education, and with education right now in New Jersey and in the country, it's a very difficult transition period. The adoption of the Common Core standards has created a much more rigorous curriculum than we've known in the past. It's proven to be very challenging, I think, both to the teachers and to the students. The Board of Education realizes that some students have test anxiety, and to try to address that at a small level, we started to give all of our students the PSAT test. In most schools, students take that in the 10th grade. We started to give it to all the students starting as freshmen, so they take it 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. It gives them more familiarity with the test and helps them to be a little calmer when taking the test. The PARCC assessment is something that's going to be done with technology. We are trying to address that, and we have increased our technology in the schools and the training for the teachers. I think it's very important that all of the teachers have all the training that they need to get the children ready for the test. And I'm confident with the staff that we have and the administration that we have that they'll be prepared and they will prepare the children to take the exams.
Thank you. Next question. Discuss the pros and cons of the Common Core curriculum standards and their impact on a school district like Clark. And Mrs. Calaguire, you get to go first.
Well, one of the pros is that everybody's going to be assessed on the same level. So if everyone has to follow the Common Core standards, then when you're taking your test to enter into college, we'll all be prepared at the same level. All the students going to college at the same level being prepared. One of the disadvantages is that the students are all at different levels. So you have to really try to address the different needs of the different students at the different levels. In Clark right now, we're trying to get all of the students in a position where we can have some differentiated studies in the classroom, and the teachers can try to address the needs of each of the students in whatever way is best for them.
Thank you. Mr. Dunkersloot.
I agree with Ms. Calaguire. The pros is everybody's assessed at the same level. The cons is the inconsistency across, I believe, districts on how it's taught and how it's taught and what's taught. I hear that some districts teach these tests, and then other districts try to teach the children how to do the work. So the biggest pro, I guess, is everybody's assessed at the same level. The biggest con is if you're not being taught the same way, then the assessment is off. I do believe there's probably other programs out there to replace or supplement the Common Core, and I believe those programs need to be evaluated.
Mr. Bonacorso.
I think the Common Core is great. A lot of people have touched on this, so not to be redundant, because it sets a bare minimum. I think whenever implementing any curriculum, we have to understand that there's going to be kids comfortable in the classroom and kids that are uncomfortable. And understanding that, I think we have a better grip on dealing with students that are uncomfortable and giving them a venue on why it is that way, using it as a rhythm to understand if it is working or why the implementation methods aren't working. And on a more holistic level, on developing a student, developing someone that's going to succeed in their career and truly be a scholar, I think it's important to give the student room for growth and not to so much let state mandates or federal mandates hamper what makes our district and our community magical or what makes that individual student magical.
Thank you. Mr. Brocato.
Again, Common Core is mandated and it's here to stay, so we have to look at it realistically. I think that Common Core in a way is good. It challenges our students, which is great, and if we want to compete on a global level, we must challenge our children. I think the problem with it is really us parents, because we don't understand it anymore. What they're teaching on Common Core is very confusing for our parents. I hear a lot of complaints that my child come home with math problems, and I don't know what I'm doing with it because I don't know how to solve the problems. So I think as a Board of Education, what we need to do is to, once the Common Core is really set in stone, we need to go out and have maybe some workshops for parents to teach them what Common Core is all about and help them understand how to deal with their children, or put out some communications about internet sites or YouTube sites where parents can go on and try to read to understand what their children are learning in the schools now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Special education has been a growing segment of the student population across the state. How can our district do a better job at addressing the needs of our special education children? And Mr. Dunker-Sloot, you would first to answer that question.
I believe that Clark actually needs a special services director, someone that's full-time, someone that's not part-time and comes and goes. We need someone to actually oversee this program. We need programs implemented. My middle daughter actually went through the preschool. She received speech services. The first year she was there, it was good, and then it went downhill from there. I believe this is because of the lack of oversight that the preschool had for their special services. The preschool as a whole was great. It was just the special services. There are many children, and the number is growing of children who actually need special services. Some are on a low end, and some are on a high end. We need someone that's qualified to actually scale these children and put them in the right program that they need to be in. The education that they get early on is what's going to excel them into programs later in their education career. So it's very important that we identify their needs early on, address them, and give them the support they need.
Thank you. Mrs. Calaguire.
As with everything, there's always room for improvement, but I do believe we do have an excellent special services. We are fortunate enough to have Ms. Sarosi, who is, although she is part-time, she is very dedicated to the students and to the school district. Special ed services can cost the school an exorbitant amount of money in the district and the town. And while I never would put a price on any child's education or any child's needs, because there is no price you can put on it, we have to be prudent to the taxpayers and to all of the students in Clark that if we can provide a service within district, that we do that. And that's what we've tried to do. We have given extra training to our special ed teachers. We have an ABA program that we copied from other schools and brought it into district to try to keep more students in district. We try to keep our special ed students as part of the district. We listen to the needs of the parents and the requests of the parents while listening to our child's study team. We have been very consistent in hiring excellent people within the child's study team who are able to evaluate the needs of the students. And when we cannot fulfill those needs, we search the best place that we can for the students. So while I think every area could always use improvement, I do think we are in a pretty good position right now, and I'm happy with the services we've been able to provide up to this point.
Thank you. Mr. Brocato.
Our district offers one of the most programs for special services. In fact, I know that realtors use that in selling homes in this town. I honestly feel we have a great special service program. We try as hard as possible to keep most children in our district, not only for their own benefit, but to try to save taxpayers' money. Like Ms. Caliguara says, we're not perfect, never going to be perfect, but we try our darnest to make sure every child gets the best education possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Bonacorso.
Just to clarify for those on TV, there was a little incident, so don't gauge our facial expressions or what was going on in the last couple seconds, aside from Mr. Brocato's straight down points. And I think, you know, special ed services is something that takes a lot of resources, but I think because we have the preschool, because we have the kindergarten now, let's address the issue earlier on where perhaps other private schools, different districts, or different entities really didn't help address an issue earlier on, and I think that runs hand in hand with both helping the student and making sure that we're using our resources to the best of our abilities. And I think that's really where we have to align our thoughts as a board.
Thank you. Next question. In light of the recent events in the Sayreville School District, what role can and should the Board of Education take in ensuring a similar situation doesn't occur here in Clark? And Mr. Bonacorso, you get to answer this first.
Excuse me, could you repeat the question?
Yes. In light of recent events in the Sayreville School District, what role can and should the Board of Education take in ensuring a similar situation doesn't occur here in Clark?
You know, I think bullying is an issue that's gone on. It's a very serious issue, and it has to be something that's extremely addressed. I know I was on the debate team in high school, and I know our coach held us to the highest standards, both morally in the classroom and on trips. I think that's something that really starts with the coaches, starts with the culture we create here, and that starts day one. You know, when a freshman walks in, and when I was in high school, I was a peer leader, so there's kids I still see at the gym. You know, we each got about like 5 to 8 kids, let's say, and, you know, that still say hi to me, and I think that's important for making students feel comfortable. I think, you know, I think everyone has their mentor in their life or a voice that they hear that matters to them, and I think if those voices are echoing the correct things and that descends from our board, I think the school is going to be an accepting place. I think a zero tolerance policy, if we're talking actual, you know, legislation or actions being taken is a no question, so.
Mr. Brocato.
Before the incident at Sayreville, we as a board were concerned with supervision in locker rooms. We had put out a directive to our sports coaches that locker room supervision was demanded by this board. Unfortunately, Sayreville incident came out, and it just showed that what we've been demanding for some time now was the right thing to do. Personally, I feel that our school is pretty secure enough that we know that we have coaches in our locker rooms at all times, that they know bullying and hazing will not be tolerated, and if it does happen, this board will address it, and I I don't think the public has any concern about what happened at Sayreville happening in Clark. Thank you.
Mrs. Calaguire.
Again, prior to the incident in Sayreville, our district has already faced this and has already been given attention to this. We have the athletic director with our coaching staff and our phys ed teachers has already put a policy into place that the coaches or gym teacher, someone is in the locker room at all times with our players or our students. The locker rooms are locked after a certain point. The students come in after school, get ready, go out in the field, the locker rooms are locked, there's no one in there without supervision. We realize that there's a certain code of conduct that we expect of our players and of our students. We have encouraged as a board that we don't just have athletes, that we have student athletes, and each student athlete is asked to sign a code of conduct, and there are consequences for their actions if they don't stand up to this code of conduct. We have a zero bullying tolerance in the district, zero tolerance for bullying, whether it be in the classroom, on the field, or in a locker room. I think we have teachers and coaches and administrators that are all very approachable to our students, that if there were ever an issue, there is someone they can go to, that they know they could trust and make sure the situation is handled properly. So I'm very confident in our policy and in our district that we are facing this. I can't say, I hope that something like this never ever happens. I know it would never be tolerated in our district.
Mr. Dunker-Sloot.
I do agree with Mr. Mercado and Ms. Calaguire. I was impressed when the athletic director last week sent out an announcement to all the enrolled in Honeywell that actually published the policy that the Board of Ed has in place. I commend the board of having that policy in place and having zero tolerance. I do believe the coaches need full accountability of what happens in the locker rooms, but I'm confident that the Board of Ed has a strong policy in place.
Thank you. Next question. When citizens attend the Board of Education meetings, addendum items are often noted in the agenda for the evening, but never available for viewing before the meeting starts, either online or in the meeting itself. This means the public actually never has the opportunity to comment on those unknown items before they are voted upon. How would you rectify this practice so the Board of Education is in compliance with statutes that require the addendum to be available, not just on the agenda? And Mrs. Calaguire, you answer it first.
First of all, sometimes there's a need for an addendum items because it's something that came in after the agenda has already been publicized and printed, and the board needs to talk about it. As a board, we usually meet an hour and a half before the meeting starts, an executive session to discuss some of these addendum items and other issues that we have. So we cannot publicize it until it's been discussed and we know whether we're going to vote on it or not. One of the ways that we can, we do have them available at the meeting when people come in. We've tried to have the BA, and I will make sure I bring this up in our next meeting, that the BA will read those addendum items prior to the meeting starting. Getting them out before the meeting, I don't think that would be possible. We will try to keep addendum items to a minimum, which we do already. It's only necessity that we do that. We want to be open with the public. We have nothing to hide. But sometimes we have last-minute items that come in, and we are unable to get it out before we had a chance to discuss it.
Mr. Bonacorso.
I think Mrs. Calaguire touched it right on its head. I think it's something that I haven't dealt with or hasn't been an issue for me, but I can see how there's concerns about it, and it's something that there definitely should always be an avenue for whether it be a student, a current teacher, or someone in the community to voice their opinion, and that's my opinion.
Mr. Donkersloot.
I've been to many board meetings, and the board is very good about posting the agenda, and when they have time, they do post the addenda online as well. I understand what Ms. Calaguire is saying, that sometimes time, it's too hard to post that addenda, but it goes back to a previous question on how do we communicate to the public. If we had a better system of posting documents and sharing them with the public, the person who posed this question, I think it would be addressed. But I will say they are available at the meetings on the bench, and they do review them, and like I said, it goes back to the communication policy in place.
Mr. Brocato?
The agenda, the main agenda is completed on Friday. Unfortunately, I don't know how we would solve the addenda problem. A lot of the decisions that come out with the addenda is done on a Tuesday night when we get together and decide that we need to vote on something. I think it's a great idea Ms. Callagher had to read those items before the meeting, so if anybody sitting in the meeting wants to comment about it, they can. But it's hard for a Board of Education, as is, I would assume, with any Board of Education in the state. There are always going to be items that go on addendum in front of the meeting that we just can't post in time for the public to see. And that's the problem, you know, with the Board of Education sometimes. But I think a good idea would be to read it before the meeting, so if anybody has to comment about it, they can come up and comment about it. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. What is the ideal profile of an ALJ graduate who spent the majority of their educational years in Clark? How does the Board of Education foster the development of that student? And Mr. Brocato, you get to answer it first.
Well, I think a well-rounded individual coming out of ALJ, in my eyes, would be perfect. Somebody that had excellent education, been in a few clubs, did a few sports, and experienced everything ALJ has to offer. My children, I think, came out well-rounded. I think they came into the high school a little shy, not knowing where they wanted to go in life, scared. And after coming through ALJ and doing cheerleading and football and taking AP courses and joining clubs and getting, in my opinion, one of the best educations they can, they came out well-rounded and ready for college. So I think a well-rounded student coming out of ALJ is what we look for. And I think that would be what colleges are looking for also. Thank you.
Mr. Dunkersloot.
Someone that's graduating high school should, A, have the proper education behind them. Clark does have a good education behind it, so I don't think that's an issue. But as Mr. Brocato said, the extracurricular activities is important. That's why everything that we have to offer needs to be there for the students. We can't afford to cut back on extracurricular activities, so these students are then, how should I say, less than the next guy. If we cut programs, then our students don't have those opportunities. Involvement with the community is key. I'm not sure how ALJ involves the students with the community, but that is a good thing. Community service, give back, teaches the students some responsibility and some accountability. And then communication. With technology these days, nobody picks up a phone anymore, nobody writes a note anymore. We need to make sure these students have proper communication skills and they can survive in the real world with them. Thank you.
Mr. Bonacorso.
So you used the word ideal. You know, I understand the word, but it's not something that I think we should impose on the student. It's really, when we talk ideal, it's what they want to do with it. And did we give them every resource we could that they could use to grow themselves? You know, I would consider myself ideal. I owe everything to the district. Had excellent teachers that stayed after with me, helped you know, work on math problems, help balance a chemistry equation. And I think the amount of resources we've increased is amazing. When I was here, there was a few AP classes. You know, the science kids took AP Bio or AP Chem. Now there's over 20, and that might be shooting it short. There were so many, you know, I didn't count them all. And I think that, so when you're talking ideal, I think a student that's prepared enough, and I think this will be coming clear in our state testing and SAT testing scores, that student could get into the college of their choice, that student has the preparation and can work with our guidance to excel and get a scholarship if necessary, that student wants to come back and give back and act as a mentor, not just speak on a single panel, but revitalize the alumni association that so many of us have lived in town but probably aren't even a part of right now, and can even help our students post-college reconnect and give an arm and perhaps give them a leg up in the professional field, something that's tight for college graduates right now.
Mrs. Calaguire.
I think it's very important to have well-rounded children, children that are not just an athlete or not just a student or not just an actor or a singer, that can do a little bit of everything, and I think we give that to our students. We teach our students from a very young level, starting at the elementary school, to give back to the community. We have our K kids at the elementary school, our Builders Club at the middle school, and we have the Key Club at the high school that teaches them to give back to the community some of what's been given to them. We are also very fortunate to have added many programs over the years. We have added many sports programs. As we've said, we have the largest sports program in Union County, but we've also enhanced our theater programs. We've added plays being done at the elementary schools and the middle schools, and we've improved upon the plays at the high schools. Our music programs have expanded tremendously. Everyone enjoys our band, which has been growing yearly. We have a color guard, and we have bands at each of the schools. At the end of the year, we have a band bonanza at the high school to showcase all of our musicians. I think all of our students should know that whatever it is that they enjoy doing, that they should do it. And I think our students should each respect the others, whether you enjoy that or not, just respect. And I think we do have that level of respect with our children. And I'm proud to say that when our students graduate, they go out with confidence and character and a very respect and pride in the town that they grew up in.
Thank you. Next question. What are the educational gaps in our school district? What action can and should the Board of Education take to close those gaps? Mr. Bonacorso.
I think definitely since at least I was here and even years before that, our district's definitely been on the up and up. So when understanding educational gaps, we always have to take them and kind of understand them in relativity to what's going on a greater scene, whether that be our students start not to get into the colleges, their first choice, if there's certain gaps, for instance, in state testing. To say I could speak on every educational gap, it's kind of a vague term, so I can't do that right now. But I think it comes back to what we've been addressing this entire evening. We're talking about resources, we're talking about curriculum, and I think we're talking about students that are succeeding and students that are not. And I think that's really comes down to who we choose as our professionals in our district, who are shepherds of our curriculum, shepherds of the virtues of the board, to make sure that they're getting through to the students and to understand why that educational gap is perhaps there. And, you know, perhaps if we're talking post-secondary college success, then understanding why perhaps maybe some students that came on harder times or couldn't make it through college for non-financial reasons, why that was so, and really solve that.
Mr. Dunkersloot.
While at this time I'm not privy to what the gaps may be in our education system, I think we just need to work with the teachers one-on-one and listen to them to see where they feel the gaps are and give them the tools and the support that they need to help fill those gaps. Thank you.
Mrs. Calaguire.
I think there's different gaps at different points, and the Board of Education reviews and analyzes our scores that we receive back from all our testing to try to identify those gaps and then try to address them. Recently, we had some gaps in the math at the middle school, going from the elementary to the middle school, so we implemented a PMI program, which is a special math program, to try to address that. We have done special classes before school for extra help in getting the children prepared for their New Jersey Ask. We try to address the needs of the students as they come to us. One of the things that I see as an ongoing issue, speaking from having 3 children at all different educational levels, I think that we address our high-level children with our AP programs and our honor programs. I think that our children that need extra help with foundation classes and more remedial work are addressed. But I think sometimes the students that are in the middle get a little bit lost, and we have to find a way to get in there and address them. And not being an educator, I don't know how to do that, but I do look to our administration and our educators to try to come up with ideas and solutions and ways that we can find a way to reach these students also and try to fix that gap a little more.
Thank you. Mr. Brocato.
Well, a lot what Laura says is what our board has done in the past. When we feel we have an educational gap, what we really do is try to support our teachers. And we support our teachers by bringing in programs to help decrease the gap. In the past, we brought in K through 5 everyday math when we seen that our math scores weren't up to par. We brought in K through 6 reading wonders when we seen that reading wasn't up to par. So we bring in programs to help support our staff in decreasing the gap that may occur. And we'll continue on doing that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next question. Besides fiscal responsibility and student achievement, what do you believe to be the role of the Board of Education in the district? And Mr. Brocato, you get to answer that first.
Well, the true role of the Board of Education is policy. We're the policy makers of the district. And basically, that's the role of a Board of Education member, is policy. We oversee the budget, and we make sure the school's running smooth, but we're not here to micromanage. We have a superintendent, we have administrators to run the schools. We just make sure the policies are followed. And basically, a lot of people don't understand that, but the Board of Education is a policy maker. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bonacorso.
I think Mr. Brocato touched on it exactly. So I feel like a lot of our policy, especially Board of Ed focus, would deal with student achievement. I think on the other side, that runs hand in hand. Everything costs money in society. And, to be shepherds of, a lasting legacy, something that you're proud of in Clark, and to make sure that policy is something that's both viable in the short run and the long run, and has been viable for quite some time. That's it.
Mr. Donkersloot.
I agree with both candidates. The policy, enforcing the policies and creating the policies are key to the Board of Ed, but we also need to listen to the public and not take all of their suggestions into forming our policies, but take them into consideration when we do. We need to listen to the parents because they're speaking for the students. We need to listen to the teachers and the administrators as well. Not serving on a Board of Education previously, Mr. Brocato and Ms. Calaguire are more familiar with this, but we need to be advocates. We need to listen to our educators, listen to our administrators and our students when we're forming our policies. Thank you.
Mrs. Calaguire.
The Board of Education is primarily a policy-making board. We're supposed to make the policies that are going to fit the district and fit the students and the teachers and the community. As a Board of Education, we try to create goals, district-wide goals and superintendent goals yearly that are going to face the needs of the community and where we see the weaknesses. Our job as a Board of Ed is to evaluate the district goals, evaluate the administrators, to ensure that they are doing what we are here to do for the community. And if we have a mission statement that we've created, that our administrators, our central office staff, our teachers, that everyone's working together. I think one of the big things for the Board of Education is that we work together with the community, with the teachers, with our administration, to try to form a team that can fit the goals of the entire district with all of the students in mind and at the same time the taxpayers.
Thank you. Next question. I have seen the signs around town listing 3 of the candidates for Board of Education. If the Board of Education is supposed to be nonpartisan, why do all the signs have the Clark GOP on them? If the candidate slate is supported by the GOP, where is the loyalty? To the party or to the Board of Education? It seems like a conflict considering the board elections are nonpartisan. And Mrs. Calaguire, you get to answer that first.
This has been something that's come up a lot, so I'm really happy this question came up tonight. First of all, for anyone that doesn't know me, I began my interest in the Board of Education prior to ever running for the Board of Education. I was the co-founder with Jill Curran of the ABC, which was the Advocates for a Better Clark. At the time that we began that, it was a grassroots organization to try to get budgets passed because the budgets in this town were consistently voted down and money was being taken out of the schools. When we did that and we began that, the central office would not allow us to use the buildings to communicate to the public and to the parents the need to pass the budgets. At that time, Sal Bonacorso was a friend, he was a councilman, then became mayor. I reached out to him to use Brewer Schools. That's exactly how the shared services began, and that's how my relationship began with the mayor and working together with him. I think it's very important for the two to be together. When I first decided to run for the Board of Education, Carmen had also said he wanted to run, Michael Bonacorso wanted to run. The three of us had a lot of the shared interest, and we ran together as a team. We said, all right, let's do this, let's run as a team. The more people you get to work together as a team, the better it is. I have my signs on lawns throughout Clark, and I have no idea whether they are a Democrat or Republican, because it doesn't matter to me. I'm here for the children. I'm not here to represent a party. I'm not here to represent any special group of people. I'm here to represent all the children of Clark.
Thank you. Mr. Brocato.
Well, number one, I'm proud to be sponsored by the GOP. We have a great working relationship with the town council and mayor. Now, 10 years ago, Board of Education and the town council hated each other. Nothing got done. It was their money and it's our money. Well, since that time, we have grown a great relationship where we share services that the money would have came out of our pockets. The mayor and council supply the classrooms for the preschool, and they pay for the electric and water and heat. They help with snow removal. They fill our trucks up with gas, and many other things. All that money that we save, that the town spend, we put back into classrooms. Listen, and I've been on the board 10 years. My dedication to the Board of Education, okay? It has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat. We're just supported by the town council and mayor because they know what a great job we have done over the past 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bonacorso.
A funny story, actually, was told to me a while back. I believe it was my freshman year of high school by my debate coach, and it was actually the times Mr. Brocato spoke of it. We had a superintendent named Doc Ortenzio, and at that point, our district was really defunct. To call us bankrupted at that point would put it slightly, to the point where students and teachers joined together and walked out, where there was a couple people still in the building, it would be a shock. I know my uncle, as told to me by my debate coach, was actually was the main guy who brought everyone back into the auditorium and settled them down and said that it was going to stop and that the district wasn't going to be run away by a superintendent that was going to do as he pleased and a board of ed that didn't, I don't want to use the word control, but didn't have the influence over the superintendent to make the just decisions, instead line his own pockets with money. So I think that's very important, and I think that it should be noted that the shared service comes out of the cooperation, and that's also very important, especially in a time when on a state level, money's hard to get, especially public funding, money that doesn't take away from our current assets or increase our tax burden while providing the most resources. And also, I don't know why that Bonacorso guy stole my name.
Mr. Donkersloot.
I'm a firm believer that any Board of Ed is nonpartisan, but I also do believe, as the other candidates have said, we do need a good working relationship and cooperation with the City Council. I would hope that the City Council does not provide the shared services because we're all Republican. I would hope that if we're all Democrats sitting up here, that the City Council would also extend those shared services to us. I am a Republican. And when I first saw that the three candidates were all running as a slate, I questioned it. I want to know where the loyalties laid. Do they lay with the Board of Ed, or do they lay with the city council and the mayor? So my intentions are the district. How should I say this? The best intentions are for the students, the educators, and the administrators. While I understand I need to work with the city council, I will not vote in favor to please them or displease them. I will vote as needed and as required and do what's best for the schools and not for the city council. With that in mind, the taxpayers, though, are key to all of this. I know the city council probably catches the heat the most on taxes, but the board needs to be fiscally responsible with the taxes in mind. So in closing, I do believe the board needs to be nonpartisan and cannot be persuaded by the city council.
Thank you. Next question. The elimination of the elementary school libraries is of particular concern to residents. How do you feel about the dismantling of the libraries? Are traditional libraries still relevant? How would you propose to bring them back? And Mr. Donkersloot.
The removal of libraries were horrible, I'll say. I feel that at one of the board meetings, it was told to the public that because St. Agnes was going away, the deal with St. Agnes was going away, that they were taking away our libraries. It was almost like punishment for St. Agnes going away. I have 3 kids in Valley Road School, and each one of them come home separately and told them how disappointing it was they can't take books out anymore. Yes, we do read books on our tablets and our phones and computers, but children need a library. Valley Road School and Henley both have strong reading programs. A lot of that was geared around the students taking home a book every week and reading it. So I do believe the libraries need to come back. I don't believe we need a room with maybe 2,000 books, but we need a mix between books, computers, and other, I believe they're calling literacy enrichments. But I do believe the libraries need to come back. Thank you.
Mrs. Calaguire.
The dismantling of the libraries, again, was a temporary fix. We worked very diligently to try to get a preschool, we wanted to get an early childhood center at St. Agnes, and we worked very diligently trying to make that happen for September. When we couldn't, we didn't want to increase the class sizes, and we did run out of space, and we didn't have time to have a different fix. We came up with the idea of dismantling the libraries for this year and trying to do that as a means to keep our class sizes where the kids are comfortable, where our teachers are comfortable, where it's a good learning environment for everyone. The books are still available for the children to take out. They're supposed to be in the classrooms and in the elementary schools, in the different classrooms, in the back of the classrooms, where the teachers can fit them. I know the teachers were talking about rotating books so the students could take them at different times. In the meantime, I know it's a little bit of an inconvenience right now. We do have a newly renovated library in town with a librarian who is very eager and willing to do anything she can for the community and for the students. And if it's a library program that the students are looking for, wanting to go and take books out, I would encourage all the parents to go get them a library card. Let them see the library here. We could never, ever match that in our schools. And be assured that the Board of Education is looking into ways to bring that back as soon as we can.
Mr. Brocato.
Well, my opponent, along with other parents, came to a board meeting about a year ago complaining about overcrowding in our schools. We listened. We went out and tried to get St. Agnes. Didn't work. We still had the problem. Temporary fix we felt was the library. We know we have a state-of-the-art library in our township that can supply what's needed on the interim, but we needed to use the library to open up space so that we don't have overcrowding in the classrooms. And as Laura said, as soon as we get a solution to the overcrowding, whether it's building or an addition, we will bring the libraries back. But unfortunately, that's the situation we're in now, and we're going to try our best to keep numbers down in the classroom, and that was the most important thing for us right now. Thank you.
Mr. Bonacorso.
I completely understand, and everyone, when you're seeing it from a perspective of sitting in the audience, and I feel myself, that you get upset because you want an ideal, you want everything to be perfect, all resources. There's always going to be temporary fixes. And I think a library system is very important. But in times like this, we have to stick together as a community and as a Board of Education. And as we see it is, so let's turn a negative into a positive. So if we feel like our students are getting less reading, let's try to incorporate it more into the curriculum. Let's try to set aside. Let's try to make sure that, at least if I remember correctly, we used to go down to the library in elementary school, and there would be a bookshelf depending on the teacher. Some had larger libraries, some had smaller ones. Well, let's make sure that every space in the classroom, is filled with books. Let's make sure that that they're doing competitive reading programs, if possible, within the classroom. I remember, the STAR program was huge, or traveling across the world was very big in Henley. And I think it is something that will be addressed, and I think it will be done in the correct way and resourcefully, just the way a lot of the other decisions that made this district great. And when you talk overcrowding, there could be, we have to wait on the demographics. But if it is because there's a younger population in town, that's because the town is affordable, because it is a great place to raise your kids, and because it has been successful. And I think that's something that's important to remember when understanding who we are as a community and what we will continue to be.
Thank you. Next question. In 2012, Clark Public Schools were ranked 40 out of 339 school districts by New Jersey Monthly Magazine. In 2014, we dropped to number 86, a decrease of 46 spots. This hurts home values in the district. Can you explain why you think this district fell so much within the last 2 years? And would you have any suggestions to help curb this drop and turn it around? And Mr. Bonacorso, you get to go first.
While I cannot say off the top of my head how NJ Monthly Magazine ranks the best school districts in the state, I'm sure along the rankings there's various indexes. So that also depends year by year, demographic by demographic. If it is a continuous problem, I think it's something that has to be addressed. While, if it's a yearly swing or it's an outlier, if you're talking about statistics and sample data as they're, number crunching themselves, I don't think it's something that we should be completely worried about. So now this brings us back to the original issue where we're talking about the core curriculum and state mandates. And I think there's a fine line between keeping our home values great, and that is important, but that's done through putting students into the best colleges, that's done through excellent state test scores, that's done through SAT scores, that's done through resources in the school, and that's done by keeping, just as they have been for the last 10 years, our taxes in our district below minimum cap, so we're not voting at them at election, and you're more voting on the candidates, but also, importantly, that it's affordable in the end. And I think that's very, very important, and I don't think that we should let NJ Monthly Magazine for a single year dictate the value of our children's education or what the parents gave to their kids or what the Board of Ed has given to this district, because that wouldn't be truthful.
Mr. Brocato.
Well, the simple answer is they changed our criteria. We have no say in what criteria they use to determine the list. If you looked at the list this year, the school that came in number 1 for the past few lists is dropped. I don't know what criteria they're using or why they change it, but they do. Unfortunately, our district hasn't changed in the last 3 years. It didn't get worse. In fact, I think it got better. So why did we drop? Well, the answer is that they changed their criteria. And unfortunately, people take a lot of credence in New Jersey Monthly Magazine. As a real estate appraiser, I don't think your home values are based on a magazine at all. I think our home values are based on our education and what our district puts out into the world after they graduate, and I think we're doing just fine. Thank you.
Mrs. Calaguire.
I know we addressed this when we were 101 and went down to 40, and we addressed, what made us 101, what made us 40, what made us 86. And again, it goes back to the criteria that's used by New Jersey Monthly, and we are not privy to that information. What I think is important that we, as a Board of Education, continue to focus on the same things each year that make us be an excellent district, which is increasing our AP courses offered, increasing our SAT scores, trying to increase our scores on the AP test, trying to keep the cost of education per pupil down, working hard to keep our classroom sizes down, increasing the percentage of students that are going on to 2- and 4-year universities or professional schools. So I think while it's great to get acknowledged and it's great to be ranked number 40, knowing that we're doing the same things every year, we can't control what factors they're using. So I think we just have to concentrate on the student and the district and the factors that matter, rather than worrying about what they're using to gauge our ranking.
Mr. Donkersloot.
Either right or wrong, people do use magazines like New Jersey Monthly and other magazines to judge where they're going to move for their education of their children. I don't know why it dropped, but I do believe if there is a reason, we should get with the teachers and find out if there are gaps. It goes back to the previous question about education gaps and how do we address them. So obviously something did change. It can't just be criteria. So we need to find out why. Was it the change of students? Was it change of curriculum? Someone should pick up the phone and call New Jersey Monthly Magazine and say, what did you change? So then we can address that. But if there are gaps, we should address them with our teachers and give them the tools and support they need.
And now we move to the final portion of the evening's program, and that is the closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for the closing statements, and they drew for the order. First is Mr. Donkersloot.
I just want to thank Tappan to Clark and the League of Women's Voters again for hosting this night. I'm glad that the 4 of us up here were able to address the public and answer some of the questions that have been sent in. Being an active member or active parent in Valley Road School, I listen. I talk to teachers, I talk to students, I talk to other parents, and I hear what's going on in town. Out in the softball field, you hear this, you hear that. Cheerleading, football games, you hear all this stuff. It's very important to have somebody out there that's actually on the ground, mixed in with other parents listening to them. A lot of parents don't have time to go to the library to take out books. They don't have time to go to a Board of Ed meeting once a month. Yes, it's only once a month. Yes, it's only an hour. But people with 1, 2, 3, 4 kids, there's a lot of other stuff going on. Everyday math, Common Core adds to that. But I'm there. I'm committed. I've always made myself available to people. So I do ask for your consideration on November 4th. I can be an advocate for you and for your children in the school system. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Bonacorso.
Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and fulfilling a civic duty and making this community great. I'm going to finish reading my introduction, and I think it's great that it got cut off because it touches on the close, because it's really, I think, aside, because the finances make it happen, but on an emotional level, I think this really resonates with who I am as a Board of Ed member, who I am in the community, and who I want to be to the students. Lastly, I want to be an advocate to any student or parent or guardian in the district. A student's comfort in the classroom is pertinent to his or her success. I want to be a friend to any student who feels he or she cannot speak for him or herself or is uncomfortable. We must envision the best for our community, and that means no individual student or group being marginalized. I am always a phone call away. I remain excited to help resolve issues, act as a mentor, or even just be someone who listens. I suggest you elect my team and myself. More importantly, I ask you to come out and vote. Please remain civically involved and vocal about our community. If you do not already do as so many residents and I do, I ask you to help make this community one that you love. Thank you.
Mrs. Calaguire.
I want to thank Tappan to Clark, and I want to thank the Women League of Voters for hosting this evening tonight. I want to thank everyone that came out tonight to listen. I hope you got any information that you were looking for. Prior to running for the Board of Education 9 years ago, I had started the ABC and the Clark Education Fund. It shows my commitment to education and to the district. Over my 9 years of tenure on the Board of Education, I have served on various committees within the district. Additionally, for the 6 past years, I've had the pleasure of serving on the Union County School Boards Association, 2 years serving as vice president. While I believe that all of the above experiences qualified me for this position, I must say that the most important attribute that I bring to the table is that I truly do care about the children of Clark. I am committed to working hard to provide the children of Clark with an efficient and thorough education while being fiscally responsible to all of our taxpayers. This has been proven over the past 9 years that I've served on the Board of Education. We as a board have kept the Board of Education budget below the state mandated cap while adding numerous programs for all our students. My belief is that a good education comes from forming a well-rounded student. We have added a full-day kindergarten program, full-day preschool program, expanded our selection of AP courses. Our high school students have been given the opportunity to take college-level courses for college credit while attending the high school, and enhanced our elementary gifted and talented program, just to name a few. The Board of Education has supported the expansion of our arts department with the productions of elementary, middle, and high school plays. Our music department has grown. I'm proud to say that I have been a part of the Board of Education that has created a shared service relationship with the Mayor and Township Council that has allowed us to improve and enhance our facilities without taking money from the classrooms. The most obvious examples are the addition of the turf field at the high school and most recently the access road and parking lot expansion at the Valley Road School.
Thank you. Mr. Brocato.
Again, I would like to thank everyone for attending tonight. Some say this is a thankless job. I don't think so. Although we spend many, many hours attending board meetings, committee meetings, school functions, and phone calls, all for no pay, the satisfaction comes from seeing where it began to where it is today. I am running again because I can see where it can go, and I want to be part of the progress of this district. I've been involved in many organizations at our township, from coaching Pop Warner football, where I stayed 3 years after my son left the program, to Little League, to the Knights of Columbus, where I was a past Grand Knight, to Unico. Giving back to community has always been part of my character. As a real estate appraiser, I know the value that a great school district has on the market value of your homes. This is why I believe in what I'm doing. Although my daughter graduated last year, I still have many friends with children in the school, and I will continue to have a pulse on what's happening and needed in our schools. I've never made a decision based on my children, but now you can be assured that any decisions I make will be in the best interest of education and the taxpayers of this community, as it has in the past. On a side note, every board member has a special place in their heart for their child's elementary school. Mine is Valley Road School. One of the many accomplishments I'm proud of is seeing where that school has come from. A mere 9 years ago, Valley Road School was looked down upon. Today, it's an excellent elementary school equal to Henley. This is good for the entire township. I'm proud to be a part of that growth and will continue to help all schools grow as Valley Road has. I hope that the voters can see the growth of the district in the past 9 years and put their trust in me as they have in the past. Thank you and have a safe trip home.
Thank you. I think the candidates deserve a round of applause.
I'd like to extend a special thanks to the League of Women Voters. Marlene, thank you so much for coming and joining us and moderating tonight. A special thank you to the candidates. You all did a wonderful job, and we're very glad that you gave the voters the opportunity to hear your voices and share your knowledge and expertise with them. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. Remember to go out and vote on November 4th. 3 seats are open on the Board of Education.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.